A very good afternoon, my dear students. The lesson that I'm going to do today is for class 8, A, B and C, and the subject that I'm doing right now is geography, and the chapter that I'll be discussing in this class is disaster management. What is disaster management? Before we come to know what is disaster management, let us first come to what is disaster now. You may be aware of this word. You must have heard this word in so many occasions. You must have read about this word in so many books. You must have heard about this word in so many videos or movies and so on. So what is a disaster? A disaster, in a very simple term, is any natural calamity which causes loss of life and property is called as disaster. Any natural calamity which causes a loss of lives and property is defined as disaster. Now we are going through a very difficult time right now. We are all at our homes. We are in the phase where we can't go out. Everyone has to stay at home. So many regulations are there. So many do's and don'ts are there as we stay at home as well. Why are we at home? What is the reason? Definitely it's because of this pandemic. The virus, the COVID-19, the coronavirus, which has spread around the world, and therefore it's called as a pandemic disaster. See, a disaster. It's a disaster. Everyone is affected by this coronavirus, the COVID-19. So this could be termed as a disaster as well. So a disaster is a natural calamity which causes a loss of life and property. Now, there are two types of disaster. One is a natural disaster. Natural disaster, and the other one is a man-made disaster. Natural disaster. Natural disaster and a man-made disaster. See, there are two types of disaster. One is a natural disaster, and the other one is a man-made disaster. So, this COVID-19, the coronavirus, that's spreading around the world and causing a terrible time for every one of us, is also a disaster. And this is most probably a man-made disaster. It is a man-made disaster. It had its origin in the animal market in China, a place called Wuhan. That's what is presumed to be, or that's what is the records which show that that was the origin of this place. Now this coronavirus could also be termed as a man-made disaster. So many lives have been lost. So many people have lost their lives around the world. More than 1,30,000, 28 to 30,000 people have lost their lives. More than 8 lakh people. More than 8 lakh people are affected by this virus. Such a difficult time we are going through this. So as you stay at home and as we conduct our online classes, we would like to request you to please be serious in your day-to-day routine. Please be serious with the classes that we conduct as well, so that the classes which we conduct through this online could be of some help to you and also keep you engaged when you are at home. Besides the studies, please do read a book. Take out a nice book and read through the days that you stay at home during this lockdown. So coming back to this lesson, dear students, we have the chapter that we are discussing is the disaster management. And I told you what is a disaster. Disaster is a natural calamity which causes a loss of life and property. Now, there are two types of disaster. One is a natural disaster and the other one is a man-made disaster. Natural disaster and a man-made disaster. Now, what are the natural disasters? What comes under natural disasters? Like we have, for instance, number one, earthquake. Earthquake is a natural disaster. Flood or tsunami. Tsunami. See, volcanoes. Volcanoes or volcanic eruptions. These are the natural disasters. We're having a lot of rainfall at this moment in Bhutia. I don't know how the condition is there right now. But we're trying our level best to make sure that the words that we write on the blackboard is visible, and also as I speak, it's audible. So, the natural disasters, we have different types. We have the earthquake, which is a natural disaster. We have the tsunami, which is a natural disaster. We have the volcanic eruptions of the volcanoes, which also are the natural disasters. Then we also have what is called as the man-made disasters. We have man-made disasters. Now, what are the man-made disasters? The man-made disasters are number one, oil spills. Number one is oil spills. Then we also have, for instance, number one. Number two, fire. Number three, war. Then we also have pollution. Number five, we also have a nuclear disaster. So dear students, please look on the blackboard here. See, we have two types of disaster. One is a natural disaster, the other one is a man-made disaster. So if you look under the natural disasters, what are the natural disasters that take place on the earth? Earthquakes, number one, tsunamis, volcanoes, even floods also. Even floods also are there. Even floods are also natural disasters. Floods that take place. We even mentioned floods. Floods, see, are also natural disasters. Now, what are the man-made disasters? See, the man-made disasters we have is, number one, oil spills. This mostly takes place in the oceans, when the huge ships carrying oil travel from one country to another. And maybe because of some technical reasons, or because of the disturbance in the sea, if the ship happens to sink, all the oil is spilled in the ocean and seas, thereby creating a disaster. So that oil spill is a natural disaster. For instance, even the pipelines that run from one place to another through the waters, or when they extract petroleum from under the ground, and if that leaks out and that goes into the waters, mixed through the water and causes disaster. See? Killing the marine animals that are there in the water. So that is also a man-made disaster. Number two is fire. Fire is also a man-made disaster. The fires could be in the industries, in the factories. It could be also at the homes, domestic places as well, the places where we live. See, that is also another man-made disaster. Then we also have wars that take place between one country to another. Now see, when you talk about wars, the wars that were fought in the olden times were very ferocious. The people that during those times, I feel that they were very, very courageous. Why? Because they had to assemble themselves on the big field, face each other and battle and go against each other and battle against each other, where so many people would all lose their lives. See? But nowadays, the warfare has changed. See? The way that we declare war against the other countries have changed. Nuclear weapons was considered very, very dangerous, and it's still considered dangerous. The countries like America, why are they very powerful? They are the richest country, they have the maximum amount of nuclear power with themselves. The most sophisticated technology are with themselves. And therefore, America is a superpower. That is a nuclear power. But now, we can just assume that a time will come when, there will be not nuclear wars, but there will be biological wars. There will be biological wars. That means, like the virus that's going on right now, the coronavirus that's going on right now, it could be a biological warfare. You never know. We never know. It is not that I'm saying that it is. No, it's not. But I'm saying we never know. It could be a biological warfare. Or they could, in the years to come, use the virus as a biological warfare to defeat another country. Because when a country is infected, when the people living there are infected by this virus, the entire economy of the country crumbles down. It collapses. People's business and trade stops. And therefore, what happens? The country gets poorer and poorer. A lot of problems are created. So coming back again once again, see, man-made disasters, we have oil spills, fire, wars, battles that take place between different countries, pollution. Another very important issue that's discussed every now and then. Pollution is also another man-made disaster. Pollution. There are different types of pollution, but in general, pollution is also one of the man-made disasters because of which many people have lost their lives. Then the last one we have is number 5. Nuclear disaster. Nuclear disaster is also another man-made disaster. So dear students, once again we'll just recapitulate from the top as we go down. So disaster management is the chapter we're doing now. So what is disaster? I told you, a disaster is a natural calamity that causes a loss of life and property. And then there are different types of disaster. We have the natural disaster and a man-made disaster. I've told you, in the natural disasters, we have disasters like the earthquake, which is caused by itself, tsunami, also a natural disaster, volcanic eruptions or volcanoes, and floods. These are the natural disasters. Then we also have the man-made disasters. And which are the man-made disasters? Oil spill, fire. Now the oil spills, fire, wars, pollution and nuclear disaster. These are all the man-made disaster. So we have just seen the natural disaster and the man-made disaster. Now let us see the causes of disaster. What are the causes of disaster? So I'm just going to rub this out. And let us see the causes of disaster. Causes of disaster. What are the causes of disaster? Now there are different causes of disaster. There are 3 important points we need to discuss in this class. The causes of disaster. The first one is geographical disaster. The geographical disaster. Geographical disaster or geographical conditions, we'd rather say. Geographical conditions. Geographical conditions. Small correction there. Geographical condition. That means the cause of disaster. The first cause of disaster is the geographical condition of a particular area. Different areas experience different climatic conditions. It's not the same all over the world. Some areas are very warm, some are cold, some are moderate, some have extremes of temperature, very hot or very cold. So the geographical conditions is the first cause of disaster. Now how does this create a disaster? For instance, if you go to the deserts, in the deserts the temperature is very high, very less rainfall takes place there. The amount of rainfall that is received is extremely low. And because of the high temperature, what happens in the deserts? Droughts take place. No crops grow, no vegetations grow. And therefore, there is a disaster in this. See, it creates a very difficult condition for people to survive. Many people lose their lives as well because of drought. So, the first one, geographical conditions, is the first cause for disaster. And under this, I've just told you, the desert regions causes, or because of the lack of rainfall, because of the high temperature, droughts take place in the deserts, whereby it creates a very difficult conditions for living beings to survive. So that is one of the geographical conditions. Now if you go to the plains, where there's a lot of rainfall received in the plains, and where there's a lot of perennial rivers flowing through that area, because of the heavy rainfall, because of the perennial river that flows through that region, there is excessive water in the river, and this excess water spills out onto the lands, the river banks, whereby creating floods, which is also an example of geographical conditions. See, geographical conditions which cause disaster. It is also an example of disaster created by the geographical condition of that particular place. Now if you see in the mountainous region, if you go to the mountains, we also have a lot of rainfall in the mountainous region. Northeastern India, northern India. Because of the excessive rainfall, what happens? Landslides take place. See, and the landslides also causes a lot of loss of lives and property. That is also an example of disaster. So that comes under the category of the geographical conditions of that particular region, which creates different types of disaster. Now, the second one which we will do now is the geological factors. Yes. Geological factors, or the geological conditions. The geological factors or the geological conditions. Now what happens because of the geological factors or geological conditions? What happens? For instance, the movement that takes place inside the Earth's surface. That is an example of the geological condition. Geological causes. I can drop this out and also explain geological causes. Geological causes, this will be more precise. The movement that takes place inside the Earth's surface. We know that at one point of time, the whole Earth was a hot ball of mass, hot mass, ball of rock. But as time came, the temperature from the outer part of the Earth slowly started to decrease, get cooler and cooler, and that is how we have the surface of the Earth, which are mostly comprised of rocks. But if you go to the center of the Earth, it is still in a liquid state. A lot of molten is found in the outer core region. In the outer core region, there's a lot of magma. It's still very hot. All the rocks melt in that region. See? So what happens? The excessive heat that is there inside the Earth's surface creates pressure. And when this pressure is released from in the inner part of the Earth, it results to the creation of earthquakes. It results to the creation of earthquakes. And when the earthquakes take place, we know, we are very used to this. Sikkim is also one of the states where the earthquake is very a prone region, where earthquakes take place very often. See? So the earthquakes take place. And because of these earthquakes also, a lot of life and property is damaged. Because of which it is also a disaster. Geological causes. What are the geological causes which causes disaster? Earthquakes, number one. It is the movement of the tectonic plates. See, like under the Earth's surface. Under the Earth's surface, what happens when you go from the mountains, we go inside, we have the tectonic plates. And when these tectonic plates move, the mountains are on top. And when they move, it results to the vibration being caused on top, whereby we feel earthquakes. See, a geological cause. Now the other one, if you see the next one, besides the earthquakes, we also have tsunamis. Tsunamis are also one of the causes for disaster. Tsunamis. Now these tsunami is also created by the movement in the tectonic plates. When the tectonic plates move inside the Earth's interior, that results to the creation of vibration. And when that vibration is carried out to the ocean floor, it results to the creation of tsunamis. So this is also one of the ways in which a lot of life and property is damaged when it comes to the seashore. See, when the tsunamis approach the coastal areas, it destroys the entire coastal areas. People lose their life, the property is all destroyed. So that is also one of the geological causes for disaster, creating disaster, tsunamis. Then if you go further down, if you go one more down, we have what is called as even volcanic eruptions. Volcanic eruptions. Volcanoes or volcanic eruptions are also another factor which creates disaster. A geological factor, a geological cause which creates disaster. Volcanic eruptions. See? So these are the 3 points we have here in the geological causes. So we have just seen how the disaster is created by the geographical conditions. If it's a very hot place, see, droughts take place, and therefore what happens? Disaster occurs there. If it's having a lot of water in the plains, when there's too much water in the plains, and because the rivers bring excessive water, flooding takes place. That is also an example of the geological conditions which cause disaster. And also the landslide that take place in the mountainous region because of the excessive rainfall is also one of the examples of the geographical conditions which results to the disaster being created. Now, the geological causes. That means that when the movement takes place inside the Earth's surface, what happens? Disaster is created. And how are the ways in which disaster is created? It is created by the earthquakes, it is created by the tsunamis, and it is also created by the volcanic eruptions. Now, we have the third point here, that is the man-made causes. See, causes of disaster. The third one is the man-made causes. See, I've just talked about this. See, causes of disaster. The first one is the geographical conditions of the particular region. Second one is the geological causes, because of the movement that takes place inside the Earth's surface. Disaster also takes place. And then we come to the man-made causes. The man-made causes is one of the major causes for the destruction. Is one of the major causes for the destruction of the human race, human beings, destruction of the properties that are there on the earth, destruction of the lives that are there on the earth. See, it destroys them. See, man-made causes. One of the best examples is the coronavirus. That's, creating havoc all over the world. More than 1,28,000 to 30,000 people have lost their lives. More than 8 lakhs people are infected by this virus. It is a man-made cause, this coronavirus, see, COVID-19. And that is why the government is time and again telling us to be maintaining the utmost hygiene, to maintain a very disciplined life with utmost hygiene. We make sure that we constantly wash our hands. We make sure that we avoid touching our face. See, when you move out of your home to get any essential commodities, we need to make sure that we cover ourselves, especially if we are coughing, if we are sneezing. And then after you come home, after you have purchased your essential commodities, we make sure that you wash your hands with soap properly, at least for 15 to 20 seconds. At home also, before eating, please make sure you wash your hands. After eating also, make sure you wash your hands. See, these are the things that are very important. Now we are realizing the importance of washing your hands. So please do that. So here, see, the man-made causes. One of the most recent man-made causes which has led to a huge disaster is the COVID-19, the coronavirus. See, so many people lost their lives. The entire world's economy has been shattered. People are not able to earn money for themselves. It's creating a lot of trouble, especially to the people who are the daily wage earners, who earn for a particular day, where they have only hand to mouth. See? That is why whenever you eat food, also make sure you don't waste. Eat as much as you can, but please don't waste. Because once you start wasting food, you are depriving the people, especially the ones who don't have food to eat. So make sure please that you never waste. Eat how much you can, but avoid wasting. So man-made causes, tsunami is one. See, fire that takes place in the industries, in the factories. See, these are also the man-made causes. Fire that takes place in the domestic places also, where people live, that is also a man-made cause. So these are the different three causes of disaster. Geographical conditions, number 2, geological causes, and number 3, man-made cause. So now let's turn to the back and go to page number 50 and see the different types of causes, the different ways in which disaster is caused. Okay? So let's see. Different ways. We'll do the same thing, a little bit in detail now. First one we have is earthquake. And this is a little bit briefly, earthquake. So this is the first disaster, a natural disaster which occurs by itself. It's mainly because of the movement that takes place inside the Earth's surface. I told you. See? The world, the Earth, the continents, the mountains that we see, all of these mountains and continents rest on the tectonic plates under the Earth's surface. We have huge slabs of rocks. See? Slabs of rocks like this. These are called the tectonic plates. On these tectonic plates, we have the mountains, oceans, and so on. See? And these tectonic plates rest on the magma, thick molten magma. See? Called the asthenosphere. So when these, see, from inside the Earth's surface, when the magma releases the pressure, the pressure is forced out through certain cracks. And the areas where the pressure is released, it results or it causes movement. It causes movement of these rocks. And when these rocks move, the vibrations are felt on the Earth's surface. See, the vibrations are felt here, whereby causing earthquakes. That means when these tectonic plates move, the vibrations are transferred to the continents, whereby we feel the vibrations on the surface of the Earth, which we term it as the earthquakes. Now these earthquakes also have really destroyed properties and have also, have caused a huge destruction to the lives of the people. A lot of people have lost their lives because of this earthquake.